The smell hit him first. Bleach. Antiseptic. Death. Michael Chen opened his eyes to a white ceiling. Hospital lights burned into his retinas. His mouth tasted like copper and regret. He tried to move his legs. Nothing. Tried again. Still nothing. And that's when he saw it. The divorce papers. Right there on the bedside table. Signed. Sealed. Delivered while he was unconscious. His wife couldn't even wait for him to wake up. Michael's phone sat on the charging dock. 17 missed calls before the accident. Now? Radio silence. 3 days of absolute silence. The nurse came in with that look. You know the one. Pity mixed with awkward discomfort. Like she was looking at a corpse that hadn't figured out it was dead yet. Mr. Chen, your wife, she cleared out the apartment. His throat was too raw to scream. The breathing tube had seen to that. So he just stared. Counted the ceiling tiles. 43. 43 stained tiles between him and oblivion. The woman who'd promised in sickness and in health had apparently meant it as a limited-time offer. Day 4 brought visitors. Well, one visitor. David Min stood in the doorway like Michael's paralysis might be contagious. Expensive suit. Nervous eyes. The kind of friend who's only your friend when you're winning. Listen, man. About the company. The board wants to buy you out. Considering the circumstances. Circumstances. That's what they were calling it. Not a shattered spine. Not a stolen life. Circumstances. How much? Michael's voice came out like gravel. 30 cents on the dollar. 30 cents. 4 shares worth millions. You have 48 hours. After that, we proceed with emergency removal protocols. Medical incapacity. They were going to take everything. Just like Sarah had. That night, Michael didn't sleep. Couldn't sleep. He stared at his legs. Foreign objects. Attached to his body but refusing to obey. He tried wiggling his toes. Nothing. Tried bending his knee. Nothing. His hand drifted toward the call button. Then past it. Toward the 4 line. One pull. That's all it would take. Don't even think about it. The voice cut through the darkness like a blade. Michael's head snapped toward the doorway. A woman stood there, backlit by harsh fluorescent light. Tall. Dark-skinned. Eyes that didn't flinch at the sight of him. This broken shell of a man. She wasn't hospital staff. Her clothes were too casual. Too vibrant. She carried herself like someone who'd walked through hell and come out the other side with her spine intact. Who are you? Riley. Your new caregiver. She stepped into the room, setting down a duffel bag with practiced ease. And before you start with the whole I don't need help routine, save it. I've heard every version. None of them work on me. Something in her tone, not cruel but unflinching, cut through Michael's fog of self-pity. I didn't request a caregiver. Hospital did. Someone has to make sure you don't do something stupid. Her eyes flicked to his hand, still hovering near the 4 line. Like that. Michael jerked his hand back like he'd been burned. You don't know anything about me. I know your wife left while you were unconscious. I know she took everything that wasn't bolted down. I know your business partners are circling like sharks. Riley pulled up a chair, sitting so their eyes were level. I know you've been lying here for 6 days contemplating whether living is worth the effort. The words hung in the air. Accusatory. True. What I don't know, Riley continued, is whether you're actually going to fight. Or if you're just going to prove everyone right. Prove them right about what? That you were only strong when life was easy. That the moment things got hard, you folded. She leaned back, studying him with unsettling intensity. Rich, powerful men talk a big game about resilience. But I've watched plenty of them crumble the second their privilege gets stripped away. Her eyes locked onto his. So which one are you? The challenge hung in the air like a dare. And something in Michael, buried deep under the despair, stirred. Anger. Pure, molten anger at being dismissed. At being written off. Fine, he ground out. What's your plan? Riley's smile was sharp. First, we keep you breathing. Then we make you dangerous again. The next morning began at 5 a.m. Michael woke to Riley yanking open the curtains, flooding the room with painfully bright sunlight. What the hell? Physical therapy starts in 30 minutes. We need to get you bathed, dressed, and fed before then. She moved with military efficiency. Laying out clothes. Preparing supplies. I don't take orders from. Yes, you do. For now. Riley turned to face him fully. Look, I get it. You're used to being in control. Calling the shots. Having people jump when you snap your fingers. But that version of your life is over. Her voice was steady. Uncompromising. This is your new reality. And in this reality, I'm the one with the knowledge and experience to keep you alive. So you can either accept that and work with me, or you can fight me every step and make this 10 times harder on yourself. Michael wanted to argue. Wanted to tell her where she could shove her cheerful tyranny. But something in her expression, expectant, challenging, utterly unimpressed by his wealth or status, made him swallow his protests. Why are you doing this? He asked instead. You could work anywhere. Help anyone. Why sign up to deal with someone like me? Riley paused. Something flickered across her face. Pain, quickly masked. Because 3 years ago, I was the one in the hospital bed. Michael stared. Car accident. Broke my back. Both legs fractured. Skull fracture. Doctors said I'd never walk again. But you. I walk now. With a slight limp when I'm tired, but I walk. She met his eyes. Someone helped me when I wanted to give up. A physical therapist named David who refused to let me quit. He died 2 years ago. Heart attack. Her voice softened slightly. Before he died, he made me promise something. That I'd pay it forward. That I'd find people at their lowest and remind them they're stronger than they think. The revelation shifted something in Michael's chest. Riley wasn't just some hired caregiver going through the motions. She understood. She'd been here. I'm sorry, he said quietly. About David. Me too. But he'd be pissed if I let grief stop me from doing the work. Riley's expression hardened again. So. Are we doing this or are we wasting time? Michael nodded slowly. We're doing this. Bathing was humiliating. Someone else washing his body. Handling him like a child. Michael kept his eyes fixed on the ceiling, jaw clenched, trying to preserve some shred of dignity. You're tensing up, Riley observed. Relax. This is medical care, not a judgment. Easy for you to say. You're not the one being treated like an infant. No, I'm the one making sure you don't develop infections or bed sores that could kill you. Her hands were gentle but firm. Professional. And for the record, when I was recovering, I had a male nurse named Derek who had to do this for me every single day. You know what I learned? What? That dignity isn't about what's being done to your body. It's about how you handle it. Riley's eyes met his. You can lie here feeling sorry for yourself. Or you can accept that this is temporary, necessary, and nothing to be ashamed of. She paused. Your choice. By the time they reached physical therapy, Michael was exhausted. The therapist, a cheerful woman named Dr. Kim, greeted them with relentless optimism that made Michael want to scream. Let's see what we're working with. She positioned Michael's leg. Testing reflexes. Nothing. Tested the other leg. Still nothing. Her smile never wavered. Okay, we're starting from baseline, but that's fine. Every journey begins somewhere. How long until I walk again? Michael demanded. Dr. Kim's pause was infinitesimal, but he caught it. Everyone's recovery is different. Some patients regain partial mobility within months. Others. How long for me? The therapist glanced at Riley, who nodded slightly. Permission to be honest. Your injury severed several neural pathways, Dr. Kim said carefully. Complete recovery is unlikely. But we can work toward improving upper body strength, wheelchair mobility, and potentially some sensation in your lower extremities. Just say it, Michael interrupted. Voice flat. I'm permanently paralyzed. We don't know what permanent means yet, Riley interjected. Medicine evolves. Therapies improve. But even if your legs never work the same way, you're not helpless. You're just different. Michael laughed. A harsh, broken sound. Different. That's one way to put it. Would you prefer broken? Useless? Finished? Riley's voice sharpened. Because I can stand here and agree with you if that's what you want. Tell you you're right. You're done. Might as well give up. She paused. Or what? Or you can stop feeling sorry for yourself and start doing the work. The words hit like a slap. Dr. Kim looked uncomfortable, clearly unused to such bluntness with patients. But Michael felt something ignite in his chest. You don't get to talk to me like that, he said, voice low and dangerous. I just did, Riley replied calmly. And I'll keep doing it until you start showing up for yourself instead of waiting for everyone else to fix you. They glared at each other. The tension in the room was suffocating. Then slowly, Michael nodded. Okay, he said. Let's start. The session was torture. Dr. Kim manipulated his lifeless legs through exercises that felt pointless. Riley watched with hawk-like attention, correcting his posture, pushing him when he wanted to quit. Sweat poured down his face. His arms trembled. Every muscle screamed. 5 more reps, Dr. Kim encouraged. I can't. You can, Riley said firmly. And you will. Michael wanted to throw something at her. But he also respected her. Or maybe he was just too exhausted to argue. He completed the reps. Barely. By the end, he was drenched in sweat, trembling with exhaustion. Excellent work today, Dr. Kim chirped. Same time tomorrow. Michael wanted to tell her to go to hell, but he was too tired. Back in his room, Riley helped him transfer from wheelchair to bed. His arms shook with the effort. Once upon a time, he'd done pull-ups for fun. Now he could barely lift his own weight. I hate this, he whispered. I hate all of it. Before Riley could respond, a voice from the doorway interrupted. Still complaining, I see. Some things never change. Michael's head snapped up. Standing in the doorway was a man he hadn't seen in 5 years. His older brother. James Chen. What are you doing here? Michael asked, shock overriding exhaustion. James stepped into the room. Expensive suit. Cold expression. I heard about the accident. And the divorce. Came to see if the rumors were true. He looked Michael up and down. And they are. You're actually paralyzed. James's tone was clinical. Assessing. How much did Sarah take? Why do you care? Michael's voice was bitter. We haven't spoken since. Since you stole my business idea and built an empire on it, James finished. Yeah, I remember. Riley stepped forward, protective instinct activated. I think it's time for you to leave. James's eyes flicked to her, dismissive. And you are? His caregiver. Which means I decide who gets to stress him out. How touching. My brother reduced to needing a babysitter. James turned back to Michael. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to make an offer. I don't want anything from you. Not even 50% ownership of your company back? James paused for effect. Because I bought out David's shares. And the others. I now control your former empire. Michael felt like the floor had opened. You what? Someone had to keep the vultures from picking the corpse clean. I figured it might as well be family. James pulled out a contract. Here's the deal. You sign over all decision-making authority to me for the next 2 years. In exchange, I'll manage the company, protect your assets, and return control once you're functional again. If you ever are. That's insane. Call it whatever you want, James interrupted. Right now, you're vulnerable. Weak. Every creditor, every competitor, every opportunist is circling. You need protection. I'm offering it in exchange for total control. That's not protection, Riley said flatly. That's a hostile takeover. James's smile didn't reach his eyes. Call it what you want. The offer expires in 72 hours. After that, I sell everything and you get nothing. He dropped the contract on the bed and walked out, leaving Michael reeling. He's bluffing, Riley said immediately. He has to be. He's not, Michael whispered. James doesn't bluff. If he says he bought the company, he did. And if he says he'll sell it. He pressed his palms against his eyes. I'm trapped. Again. Riley sat beside him, thinking. What if there's another option? There isn't. What if we fight for the company? Prove you're competent to run it even from a wheelchair. With what? I can barely feed myself. How am I supposed to convince anyone I can run a multi-million-dollar company? The same way you're going to convince them you can walk again, Riley said firmly. One impossible step at a time. That afternoon, the hospital social worker visited. A thin woman with kind eyes and terrible news. Mr. Chen, we need to discuss your discharge plan. Insurance will only cover another 2 weeks of inpatient care. After that, you'll need to transition to outpatient therapy or a long-term care facility. Long-term care facility, Michael repeated numbly. You mean a nursing home? A rehabilitation center, the social worker corrected gently. Where you can continue therapy while rotting away with other people society has given up on, Michael finished bitterly. The social worker's expression was sympathetic but firm. Do you have family who can take you in? Friends? Any support system? Michael thought of his parents back in Korea. Aging. Barely able to care for themselves. His brother who'd just offered a devil's bargain. His friends who'd already proven their loyalty was conditional. No, he said quietly. I have no one. He has me, Riley said from the doorway. Both Michael and the social worker turned to stare at her. I'm his private caregiver. I'll be accompanying him wherever he goes. The social worker looked doubtful. Private care is expensive, Mr. Chen. Do you have the funds? I'll manage, Michael interrupted, though he had no idea if that was true. Between Sarah's theft, the business buyout, and medical bills, his finances were a disaster. After the social worker left, Michael turned to Riley. You can't actually follow me to some depressing nursing home. You have your own life. My life is fine, Riley said simply. And you need help beyond what a facility can provide. Why? The question burst out of Michael before he could stop it. Why do you actually care? You barely know me. I'm rude, difficult, and I have nothing to offer you except. Except what? Riley challenged. Money. Status. I don't need either. What you don't understand, Michael, is that I'm not here because of what you can give me. I'm here because I see something in you that you don't see in yourself. And what's that? A fighter. Someone who's been knocked down but isn't actually out. Not yet. She crossed her arms. But if you want me to leave, say it. Tell me right now you want to face this alone, and I'll walk away. No judgment. Michael opened his mouth. The word should have been easy. He'd spent his whole life handling things alone. Trusting no one. Relying on himself. But looking at Riley, this woman who'd known him less than a week but somehow saw past the paralysis and bitterness to something worth fighting for. The words wouldn't come. Stay, he whispered. Please. Riley's expression softened. Okay. Then we do this together. All of it. That night, Michael dreamed of the accident for the first time. The screech of tires. The sickening crunch of metal. The moment of impact when the world went sideways and his body betrayed him. He woke gasping, drenched in sweat, pain screaming through legs that couldn't feel. Riley appeared in the doorway almost instantly. Nightmare? Michael nodded, not trusting his voice. She crossed the room, sitting on the edge of his bed. Want to talk about it? What's there to say? I relived the worst moment of my life again. Does it get easier? He whispered. The nightmares? Eventually, Riley said. But not if you fight them alone. When I was recovering, I had nightmares for months. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back in that car. Feeling the impact. Hearing the sound of my own bones breaking. She took his hand. What helped was talking about it. Making it less powerful by dragging it into the light. I don't want to talk about it. Then don't. But I'm here when you do. The simple offer, no pressure, no judgment, just presence, cracked something open in Michael's chest. Thank you, he managed. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be hard. She was right. The next few days established a brutal routine. Early wake-ups. Excruciating physical therapy. Meals he could barely stomach. But Michael pushed himself harder than the therapist recommended. Desperate to prove he could recover. That his brother's offer was unnecessary. That he wasn't finished. Then on day 4, disaster struck. During a particularly aggressive therapy session, Michael tried to put weight on his legs with the parallel bars. Dr. Kim had warned him it was too soon. But he insisted. He needed to feel his legs work. Needed proof that he wasn't permanently broken. He shifted his weight. For one glorious second, he felt his right leg take some pressure. Then it gave out completely. Michael crashed forward, smashing his face against the parallel bar. Blood exploded from his nose. Pain detonated through his skull. He crumpled to the mat, barely conscious, tasting copper. Michael. Riley's voice, sharp with fear. He felt hands on him. People shouting. The world spinning. When he woke, he was back in his hospital bed. Nose bandaged. Head pounding. And worst of all, Dr. Kim standing beside him with a grave expression. Mr. Chen, I need to be direct with you, she said. What you did today was dangerous and counterproductive. You're not ready for weight-bearing exercises. Pushing too hard too fast doesn't speed recovery. It causes setbacks. I felt my leg. You felt a reflex. Not voluntary movement. There's a difference. Dr. Kim's tone was firm. If you keep trying to rush this, you're going to seriously injure yourself. Possibly permanently. The words hit like a hammer. Michael had been so desperate to prove everyone wrong that he'd sabotaged himself. How long? He asked quietly. Until I can actually try again. Minimum 6 weeks. And that's if you follow protocols exactly. 6 weeks. Might as well be 6 years. After Dr. Kim left, Michael lay in silence, staring at the ceiling. Riley sat in the corner, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Go ahead, Michael said bitterly. Say it. Say what? I told you so. You warned me to be patient. To trust the process. And I didn't listen. Riley was quiet for a long moment. You want to know what I'm actually thinking? Sure. I'm thinking you're terrified. And when you're terrified, you make stupid decisions trying to control things you can't control. She stood, crossing to his bed. I'm also thinking that fall probably scared you more than any lecture I could give. So instead of rubbing it in, I'm going to ask, what did you learn? Michael swallowed hard. That I can't force this. That healing has its own timeline. And that I need to trust people who actually know what they're doing instead of thinking I know better. Riley nodded. Good. Because if you pull that stunt again, I'm not just going to yell at you. I'm going to let you fail completely. And then you'll see what rock bottom actually looks like. The threat should have made him angry. Instead, Michael felt relieved. Because Riley wasn't coddling him. Wasn't treating him like fragile glass. She was holding him accountable. Expecting better. I won't, he promised. Pull that stunt again. I mean it. Good. Now rest. You rattled your brain pretty good. Michael was in his room 2 days later, reviewing financial documents with Riley, when the door opened without warning. A man stood there. Tall. Handsome. Expensive watch. Confident smile. The kind of man who'd never known a day of struggle in his life. Riley went rigid. Completely still. Like she'd seen a ghost. Riley, the man called. Is that really you? Riley's face drained of color. Marcus. What are you doing here? Marcus. The name hit Michael like ice water. Riley had mentioned a Marcus. Her physical therapist who died. But this man was very much alive. I was visiting a patient in the building, Marcus said, approaching. Saw your name on the caregiver registry. You look amazing. His eyes flicked to Michael, dismissive, before returning to Riley. I've been trying to reach you for months. I changed my number, Riley said, voice tight. I noticed. Marcus's smile was charming. Practiced. Look, I know how we ended was complicated. But I've done a lot of growing. A lot of thinking. And I realize I made a mistake. Walking away from you was the worst decision of my life. Michael felt ice flood his veins. This wasn't her therapist Marcus. This was her ex-fiancé. The one who'd abandoned her after the accident. You need to leave, Riley said, voice shaking slightly. Just hear me out. Leave, Michael interrupted, wheeling forward. You heard her. Marcus finally acknowledged Michael's existence. And you are? The person she didn't abandon, Michael said coldly. Unlike you. Marcus's expression flickered. Annoyance mixed with calculation. Look, I don't know what Riley told you about our relationship, but it was complicated. She was in a bad place. I was overwhelmed. She was paralyzed, Michael's voice rose. And you left. That's not complicated. That's cowardice. Michael, Riley said quietly. Don't. Why not? He deserves to hear exactly what kind of person he is. Marcus's charming mask slipped. You don't know anything about our history. I know enough. I know she needed you and you disappeared. I know she built a life without you. And I know you don't get to waltz back in because you suddenly decided you made a mistake. The confrontation drew attention. Dr. Kim approached, concerned. Is everything all right here? Everything's fine, Riley said quickly. Marcus was just leaving. Marcus held up his hands in mock surrender. Okay, I'm going. But Riley. His voice softened. I meant what I said. I want to make things right. I'll be at the Riverside Hotel for the next week. Room 412. If you want to talk, really talk, you know where to find me. He left. And the silence he left behind was deafening. Riley's hands trembled. Michael reached for her, but she pulled away. I need some air, she said, voice hollow. Riley, wait. But she was already gone, leaving Michael reeling. She didn't come back for 3 hours. Michael spent the time in agony, mind racing with worst-case scenarios. What if she went to see Marcus? What if the ex-fiancé's reappearance made her question everything? What if Michael lost the one person who'd stood by him? When Riley finally returned, her eyes were red but dry. She'd been crying but was done with tears. I need to tell you something, she said, sitting across from him. About Marcus. The whole truth. Michael waited, heart pounding. I lied to you, Riley began. About my physical therapist. His name wasn't Marcus. It was David. David Chen. He died 2 years ago from a heart attack. That part was true. Then who? Marcus Washington was my fiancé. We were together for 4 years. Engaged for 8 months. We were supposed to get married 3 weeks after my accident. Riley's voice was steady but brittle. When I woke up paralyzed, he visited once. Stood at the foot of my hospital bed. Looked at me like I was already dead. And said, I can't do this. Then he left. Blocked my number. Had his lawyer send a formal notice ending our engagement. Michael felt rage burn through him. Riley. Let me finish, she interrupted. For 2 years, I hated him. Hated myself for loving him. Hated that I'd built my entire future around someone so hollow. Then I met you. And I realized something. What? That I'd conflated 2 people in my story. David, who taught me to fight. And Marcus, who taught me what not to accept. I combined them when I told you about my recovery because... She swallowed hard. Because I was ashamed. Ashamed that I'd loved someone who abandoned me. Ashamed that part of me still wondered if he left because I wasn't worth staying for. That's not true. I know that now. Logically. But emotionally, seeing him today brought everything back. The humiliation. The betrayal. The fear that maybe I am fundamentally unlovable when things get hard. Michael wheeled closer, taking her hands. You're not. You're the strongest, most loyal person I've ever met. Marcus is a coward who didn't deserve you. And the fact that he's showing up now, when you've built a life without him, that's not love. That's ego. I know, Riley whispered. But part of me, a stupid broken part, wants to hear what he has to say. Wants closure. Or maybe just the satisfaction of telling him exactly what I think of him. Then do it, Michael said. Go talk to him. Get your closure. I trust you. Riley's eyes widened. You trust me? Completely. You've earned it 1,000 times over. Michael squeezed her hands. But promise me one thing. What? Don't let him rewrite history. Don't let him make excuses or manipulate you into thinking his abandonment was anything other than what it was. A choice he made that says everything about him and nothing about your worth. Riley's eyes filled with tears. How are you so good at this? At seeing people clearly? I'm not. I'm learning from you. They sat in silence, hands intertwined, the weight of shared trauma and trust binding them. The next evening, Riley went to the Riverside Hotel. Michael insisted she take his phone. He enabled location sharing. Not because I don't trust you, he said. Because I don't trust him. Marcus's hotel room was exactly what she expected. Expensive. Sterile. Designed to impress. He opened the door in designer casual wear, smile warm. Riley. I knew you'd come. Don't, she said, stepping inside. Don't act like this is some romantic reunion. I'm here for one reason. To tell you exactly what your abandonment cost me. Marcus's smile faltered. I deserve that. You deserve worse. But words will have to do. Riley stayed by the door, refusing to get comfortable. When you left, I didn't just lose my fiancé. I lost my sense of self. I spent months wondering what was wrong with me. Why I wasn't worth staying for. Why my paralysis made me disposable. Riley, I was scared. Everyone's scared, she cut him off. Life is terrifying. But you don't abandon people you love because you're scared. You fight. You stay. You show up even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Marcus had the decency to look ashamed. You're right. I was a coward. And I've regretted it every day since. I don't believe you. It's true. If it were true, you would have reached out years ago. Apologized. Made amends. But you didn't. You only showed up now because you saw me thriving. Saw me with someone else. And your ego couldn't handle that I'd built a life without you. Riley's voice was ice. This isn't about making things right. This is about you needing to feel like you're still important to me. You're not. Marcus's mask cracked completely. You've clearly moved on. With your patient. How professional is that? More professional than abandoning your fiancée when she's paralyzed, Riley shot back. Michael sees me. Really sees me. Not as a caregiver or a fixer or someone to manage his image. As a partner. As an equal. Something you never did, even before my accident. So that's it? You're just going to walk away? No. I already walked away. 2 years ago. When you forced me to. Riley moved toward the door. This conversation? This is me closing a chapter you left open. Consider it closed. She left without looking back. Outside, she called Michael. He answered on the first ring. You okay? He asked immediately. I'm perfect, Riley said, and meant it. Coming home. I'll be waiting. 2 days before James's deadline expired, Michael received a call from his attorney. Attorney Parker. Expensive, ruthless, exactly what Michael needed. Michael, we have a problem, Parker said without preamble. Sarah is filing for conservatorship. She's claiming you're mentally incompetent to manage your own affairs due to trauma and medication. Michael's hand clenched around the phone. She abandoned me. And now she wants to control me? She's arguing she panicked initially but has since reconsidered and wants to fulfill her wifely duties, Parker said, disgust evident. It's transparent as hell, but legally she has standing. And with your brother controlling your company, her lawyers are going to argue you're being taken advantage of from all sides. How do I fight this? You need to prove you're competent. Lucid. Capable of making decisions. Which means we need medical evaluations, psychological assessments, witness testimony. Parker hesitated. We need to address your relationship with Riley. What about it? Sarah's team is going to use it against you. They'll argue you've developed an inappropriate dependency on your caregiver. That you're making emotional rather than rational decisions. That you're vulnerable to manipulation. Michael looked at Riley, who'd been listening on speaker. Her expression was carefully neutral. So what do we do? Michael asked. We fight, Parker said. But it's going to get ugly. She's going to dig up everything. Your mental state, your relationships, your finances. Everything. You need to be prepared for warfare. After hanging up, Michael sat frozen. Riley found him like that, staring at nothing, jaw clenched so tight it ached. Talk to me, she said gently. He told her everything. Sarah's legal maneuver. The conservatorship threat. The fact that their relationship, whatever it was becoming, would be used as evidence against him. Maybe, Riley started, then stopped. Maybe what? Maybe I should step back. Professionally. Become less involved. So they can't use us against you. No. The word came out fierce. Automatic. I need you. Not just as a caregiver. As He struggled to find the words. As someone who sees me. Really sees me. If you step back, Sarah wins. And I'd rather lose everything than give her that satisfaction. Riley's eyes searched his face. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. She nodded slowly. Okay. Then we fight together. And we show them exactly how strong you are. At 11:47 p.m., with 13 minutes left on James's deadline, Michael called his brother. I'm not signing your contract, he said when James answered. Do whatever you want with the company. I'm done letting other people dictate my life. You're sure? His brother asked. I've never been more sure. You always were stubborn, James said. Good luck with Sarah. You'll need it. The line went dead. Michael exhaled, feeling simultaneously liberated and terrified. No going back now, Riley observed. No, Michael agreed. But at least I'm moving forward on my own terms. The psychiatric evaluation was scheduled for the following week. Dr. Rachel Morrison. Renowned neuropsychologist with a reputation for brutal honesty. Michael spent days preparing. Rehearsing answers. Steeling himself. The evaluation lasted 3 hours. Dr. Morrison was severe. Sharp eyes. No-nonsense demeanor. The kind of person who could spot deception from across a room. She grilled him on everything. Cognitive tests. Memory assessments. Ethical scenarios. Financial decisions. Tell me about your relationship with your caregiver, Dr. Morrison said eventually. Here it was. The trap. Riley saved my life, Michael said carefully. Not just medically, but emotionally. When everyone else abandoned me, my wife, my friends, my business partners, she stayed. She challenged me. She refused to let me quit. And you've developed feelings for her. Yes. Dr. Morrison made a note. Some might argue those feelings stem from dependency rather than genuine affection. Some would be wrong, Michael replied. I'm not confused about what I feel. Riley and I have been through hell together. We've seen each other at our absolute worst. And what we've built isn't dependency. It's partnership. Mutual respect. Something my marriage never had, even before the accident. Your wife claims she left because she was overwhelmed. That she's since reconsidered and wants to care for you. How does that make you feel? Michael laughed. Sharp. Bitter. It makes me feel like she's lying. Sarah didn't leave because she was overwhelmed. She left because I became inconvenient. And she only wants back in now because she sees an opportunity to control my assets through conservatorship. That's quite an accusation. It's quite a pattern. Would you like to see the financial records showing she'd been stealing from me for months before the accident? Or the evidence of her affair? Or the fact that she literally fled the hospital before I regained consciousness? Dr. Morrison's expression remained neutral, but Michael saw the flicker of interest. The evaluation continued. By the end, Michael was exhausted. But he'd represented himself well. The report arrived 6 days later. Delivered via attorney Parker. She deemed you fully competent, Parker said, barely concealing his satisfaction. Cognitively intact, emotionally stable, capable of making independent decisions. Her report is comprehensive and unambiguous. It's a complete vindication. Relief flooded through Michael so intensely his vision blurred. So the conservatorship will almost certainly be denied. We file this with the court today. Sarah's case collapses. Michael looked at Riley, whose eyes shone with fierce pride and unshed tears. We did it, he whispered. You did it, she corrected. You showed them exactly who you are. But celebration was premature. 2 days later, Sarah's legal team filed an emergency motion. They claimed Dr. Morrison had been compromised. That Riley had coached Michael. That the evaluation was tainted. They submitted evidence. Photos of Riley and Michael holding hands. Sharing meals. Their body language suggesting intimacy. They're arguing the relationship itself proves impaired judgment, Parker explained, furious. That you're emotionally dependent on Riley and therefore incapable of objective decision-making. That's insane. It's strategic, Parker corrected. And it'll delay the hearing by at least 6 weeks. 6 more weeks of uncertainty. Of Sarah's manipulations. Of legal limbo. Michael felt something inside him snap. Then we go public, he said quietly. What? We take this story public. Show everyone exactly who Sarah is and what she's doing. No more playing defense. We go on offense. Parker looked horrified. That's incredibly risky. If you go public. She's already dragged me through hell privately. At least publicly, I control the narrative. Riley grabbed his arm. Michael, think about this. Once you go public, you can't take it back. The scrutiny, the judgment. I'm tired of hiding, Michael interrupted. Tired of letting her define me as incompetent, as a victim, as someone who needs to be controlled. I want the world to see the truth. Then let's make sure they see all of it, Riley said slowly. Not just your story, but hers too. Every theft. Every lie. Every manipulation. That night, Michael recorded a video. It was raw. Honest. Unflinching. He detailed the accident. The abandonment. The theft. The conservatorship filing. Sarah's reappearance and manipulation tactics. He showed his scars, physical and emotional. He introduced Riley. Explained her role. Their relationship. The genuine partnership they'd built. I'm not incompetent, he said directly to the camera. I'm healing. And healing is messy, uncertain, and sometimes looks like weakness. But it's not. It's the strongest thing I've ever done. And I won't let someone who abandoned me at my lowest now control me at my highest. The video went live at 8 p.m. on a Thursday. By midnight, it had 50,000 views. By morning, 500,000. News outlets picked it up. Social media exploded. The backlash was immediate and vicious. Public opinion split violently. Some supported him, she abandoned him paralyzed and now wants his money. Disgusting. Others attacked, he's clearly being manipulated by his caregiver. This is textbook grooming. But the worst comments targeted Riley. They were racist. Misogynistic and violent. Death threats arrived hourly. Michael watched Riley's hands shake as she read the messages. We're going to the police, he said immediately. It's just internet trolls. It's hate speech and death threats. We're reporting every single one. That night, someone found Riley's address. Posted it online with the caption, "Let's pay the gold digger a visit." Riley moved into Michael's room. Not for romance. For survival. This is my fault, Michael said, guilt crushing his chest. I should never have gone public. Stop, Riley commanded. This isn't your fault. It's theirs. The people sending threats. The people who see a black woman caring for an Asian man and assume something sinister. This is their ugliness, not yours. I'm still sorry you're going through this. I'm not going anywhere, Riley said fiercely. Threats or not. You hear me? I'm not Marcus. I don't run when things get hard. The declaration hung in the air between them. A line crossed. A truth acknowledged. Michael reached for her hand. I love you. I need you to know that. Not as my caregiver. Not out of gratitude or dependence. I love you as a person. As a partner. As someone I want to build a life with. Riley's eyes filled with tears. I love you too. Have for weeks, maybe longer. And I'm terrified of what that means. But I'm more terrified of losing you. They kissed. Desperate. certain. Full of fear and promise and defiance against a world trying to tear them apart. 3 days later, Attorney Parker called with news that would change everything. Michael, we found something. Financial records showing Sarah was siphoning money from your joint accounts for 6 months before the accident. Small transfers, carefully hidden, building a safety net while you were still healthy and unaware. The betrayal cut deeper than Michael expected. She was planning to leave me anyway. Looks like it, Parker's voice was grim. The accident just accelerated her timeline. We're filing this with the court. It destroys her credibility. Release it, Michael decided. Let everyone see exactly who she is. The evidence hit social media like a nuclear bomb. Public opinion shifted violently. News outlets ran stories about premeditated spousal abandonment and financial abuse. Sarah's world collapsed. The court hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. The courtroom was packed when the day arrived. Judge Martinez called the proceedings to order. We're here to determine Mr. Michael Chen's competency and the validity of Mrs. Sarah Chen's conservatorship petition. Sarah's lawyer went first. Painted Michael as a trauma victim. Presented the relationship with Riley as evidence of impaired judgment. Then Attorney Parker stood. He methodically dismantled every argument. Presented Dr. Morrison's evaluation. Called hospital staff who testified to Michael's clarity. Showed the financial records proving Sarah's premeditated theft. Mrs. Chen didn't leave because she was overwhelmed, Parker argued. She left because her plan to financially gut her husband was complete. The accident simply accelerated her timeline. And now, seeing him recover without her, she wants control. Not out of love or concern, but out of greed and wounded pride. When Sarah took the stand, she performed brilliantly. Tears at the right moments. Voice breaking with emotion. But then Parker began cross-examination. Mrs. Chen, can you explain these bank transfers? 6 months before the accident. Over $200,000 transferred to accounts in your name only. The courtroom erupted. Judge Martinez gavelled for order. I've heard enough, she said. Mr. Chen is clearly competent. The conservatorship petition is denied. Furthermore, I'm ordering a full financial audit and referring this case to the district attorney for potential fraud charges. Victory. Michael felt no triumph. Just exhaustion and profound relief. Outside the courthouse, Sarah made one final attempt. She approached, mascara streaked, hands shaking. Michael, please. No, he said quietly. It's over. You're free. Isn't that what you wanted? Sarah looked at Riley with something almost like envy. Take care of him. He deserves someone who actually sees him. Then she walked away. And Michael knew he'd never see her again. 6 months later, Michael stood. Not for long. Just 20 seconds with a walker. But he stood at his own wedding. Riley walked down the aisle in a simple white dress, eyes locked on his. I do, Michael said, voice clear and strong. I do, Riley echoed. They kissed as their friends cheered. 1 year after that, they opened the Phoenix Center. A rehabilitation facility designed to treat patients as whole people, not broken bodies. Free services for those who couldn't afford care. Mental health counseling integrated with physical therapy. Everything Michael had needed but struggled to find. This is incredible, Riley whispered at the grand opening, watching patients arrive. It's just the beginning, Michael replied. But it's ours. We built this. That evening, they returned to their apartment. Michael could walk short distances now with a cane. Slowly. But independently. What are you thinking? Riley asked, finding him on the balcony. That I'm grateful, Michael said simply. For all of it. The accident that destroyed my old life. The betrayal that forced me to see clearly. The paralysis that taught me real strength. Because without those things, I never would have met you. Riley smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. You know what the best part is? What? This isn't the ending. It's just the beginning. She squeezed his hand. And I can't wait for all of it. Michael kissed her softly. Neither can I. They stood together, watching the city lights flicker to life. Two people who'd been broken and had rebuilt themselves stronger. Not perfect. Not unmarred by scars. But whole in the ways that mattered. Michael thought about Sarah, hopefully finding her own path somewhere. His brother, who'd eventually reached out to congratulate him. All the people who'd abandoned him when he was at his lowest. And he felt nothing. Not anger. Not resentment. Just indifference. They weren't his story anymore. His story was Riley's laugh when he made terrible jokes. The patients at the center slowly regaining hope. The quiet mornings making breakfast together. The plans for the future. I love you, he said, voice thick with emotion. I love you too, Riley replied. Always. And in that moment, Michael knew something with absolute certainty. He'd lost everything. His legs, his wife, his company, his old life. But he'd gained something infinitely more valuable. Himself. And the woman who'd helped him find it. Some things are worth more than legs that work. Like a heart that's finally learned what it means to be whole. If you're going through hell right now, keep going. The person you're becoming is worth the pain. And sometimes the worst thing that ever happened to you leads you to the best thing that ever happened to you. Hit that subscribe button if this story moved you. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, you're stronger than you think.